What is up, guys, and welcome back to another Crypto with Leo YouTube video. Today, I'm going to be running through another lawsuit update, that obviously being to do with the Ripple vs. SEC lawsuit that is currently going on. Reason being, there is a multitude of updates that have been dropping recently. I kind of want to run through them, simply explain it so you guys know what to expect, understand what's going on, and kind of give you an insight into what's coming over the next few days, weeks, etc. Now, to give you a brief insight, this is going to be running through some stuff to do with Brad Garlinghouse, Bill Hinman, the famous speech, etc. And of course, Judge Netburn, she does have some very important decisions to make. That obviously being to do with the fact that it was the deadline for the expert discovery, or at least the completion of the expert discovery on the 28th, so a few days ago. Now, a lot of people have been relatively confused as to why has nothing happened? I mean, obviously, we did not see a settlement on this date, which goes without saying. However, what's happening going forward? What should we expect? What phase are we going into? So that's kind of what I'm going to break down to you today, but also simply explain all of the recent filings and updates that have been occurring, because there's been a few and they are pretty damn important and they look good for Ripple, put it that way. I mean, there is one actually, but you'll see it. You'll see it. Now, of course, let's jump into the first one, and that occurred on the February the 24th, and that is the SEC filed its opposition to Brad Garlinghouse's motion to compel the turnover of notes taken by Matthew Estabrook, counsel to the SEC Commissioner Roisman. Now, to understand what this filing is all about, we need to go back in time, and this is something I did actually speak about on the last lawsuit update, and that was to do with some pretty important things were uncovered in one of Garlinghouse's depositions, and that is that a past SEC Commissioner Roisman told Brad Garlinghouse that XRP was not a security, according to Brad's deposition. He was not the chair at the time, however, he was the city commissioner, which is, I mean, it's pretty damn important. If one of your commissioners is talking to someone you're currently in the lawsuit against saying, don't know why you're here. I mean, that's literally what they said in the transcript, as you can see right here. It says, in these meetings, the commission, did any of the commission tell you that they did not believe that XRP is a security? Brad Garlinghouse answered yes. The question was who? And he put, I recall Commissioner Roisman very specifically saying, I'm sorry you've even had to come here. I think that the confusion about the status of XRP he viewed as not healthy for the market. I don't recall less about the meeting, blah, blah, blah. And it just goes on into what the rest of the transcript says. But there was clearly uncertainty within the SEC as to why Ripple and XRP was even brought into this lawsuit. And for that to be uncovered, I think it definitely did ruffle a few feathers in the lawsuit. And in turn, of course, Brad Garlinghouse wanted some documents from that meeting turned over into court so the judge could have a look at it herself and obviously to support his statements. And that is obviously why the SEC have filed an opposition. They're like, hey, let's not do that. We don't really want to be turning those over. So let's kind of jump into what they were talking about. Obviously, they jump in kind of, just saying with their main arguments. But one of the easy things, and this is kind of a lesson as well, guys, if you ever are reading these documents, the easiest thing to do, and this is kind of what I've learned just through reading through them, these are basically their key arguments, the things in bold. I know that probably goes without saying, but it kind of helps you if you're ever looking at these, you can outline things relatively quickly. So, I mean, I've kind of got some stuff written down here, but I'll be looking at my computer mostly. It says, the notes reflected matters that Mr. Estabrook believed were important and could relate to the future commission decisions. So remember, these are all arguments as to why they do not want to hand over these documents from that meeting. And just to remind you again, Mr. Estabrook was simply a guy taking notes of a conversation between Garlinghouse and Commissioner Roisman. Basically, what they're saying here is that Estabrook really wasn't writing everything down. He was only really writing things down that he thought were relatively important in relation to the meeting. So there's nothing to say that any of these notes that we hand over to you are going to support anything that you're saying, which is a pretty loose argument, I would say. However, it does tie into pretty much their next one, which is something they love to talk about in the SEC, but it goes without saying. They're a governing body in the US, so they're going to use it. And that is that the notes are protected by DPP, or deliberative process privilege, which for those that don't know, it kind of is just a rule that protects governing bodies in the US. And it says the notes are protected by DPP pursuant to the court's order protecting notes of meetings involving Ripple and its associates. And simply what they go into here is they pretty much just cite a ton of case law, referencing it to the fact that we really shouldn't be handing this over. You've done that. You haven't made us hand over certain things in the past, and likewise for Ripple, you've let them off handing things over in the past as well. So they're kind of it's a classic argument. They're going to use it any time they need to hand over something that is from an internal meeting within the SEC. Because remember, if it is to do with the SEC, it can be protected by DPP. Wasn't meant to rhyme, but I hope that helps you remember this stuff. And of course, the next argument, I believe there was one more. I do have it written down here. Or was that the only two? Yeah, there was only two arguments in this document, but I mean, it was a pretty loose, I would say, kind of loose argument. However, it kind of did make sense. But it pretty much ties into Ripple did actually have a response, which we'll get onto later. But I'd say on the side of things, it did look okay for the SEC. It wasn't the strongest in the world. I personally still think that these documents could get handed over, but to complete honesty, unbiased, there is a chance that these notes may not get handed over simply for the fact there's no proof what's going to be inside them. They also have DPP on their side as well. And obviously to do with the fact that he didn't write everything down, so it might even support anything Brad Garlinghouse is saying. Now, as we move on to the next topic, and this is the next thing, and this is Ripple and the individual defendants have filed their opposition to the SEC's motion for partial reconsideration and clarification of Judge Netpern's DPP ruling, noting that the SEC is simply seeking a do-over. As you'd expect, this is a Ripple filing. And what this is to do, once again, we've got to go back in time, guys. This is to do with basically the SEC completely changing their stance, hence why they said do-over, on Bill Hinman's speech, the famous speech from 2018. And they're basically just saying this makes no sense, that they can completely change their stance. And, as it says in here, they're asking for reconsideration of the DPP ruling, saying that we need to uncover what actually happened and how this meeting or how this speech came about. And I think this is a completely fair thing to say. The SEC have seriously dug themselves a hole. This ties into many things I've been talking about on my TikTok as well. For those that do not remember, let me remind you quickly. The SEC, since the beginning of this lawsuit, have basically been outlining the Bill Hinman's famous speech from 2018, where he kind of gave somewhat clarity to Bitcoin and Ethereum, which at the time, remember, there was literally very limited case law. So a lot of assets may have taken that upon themselves as, okay, let's try and work off how they worked, as the SEC clearly sees some form of clarity inside what they're doing. So as you can, from what they're saying now, you can see where the confusion comes from. However, what they said back in the day is that the whole time that speech was Bill Hinman's personal opinion and not an opinion shared by the SEC. So simply, Bill Hinman was simply saying that, Bitcoin and Ethereum somewhat have some form of clarity in regards to securities laws. And because it was his personal opinion, it was kind of pushed under the carpet, etc. They even have Bill Hinman come in and sign an affidavit, which is basically an oath, or at least a promise under law, and basically promising under oath, where he said, yes, this speech was my personal opinion. Now, due to the fact of being his personal opinion, however, that means it was not protected by DPP, deliberative process privilege. And because of this, Ripple were like, hell yeah, let's get all the emails to do with that speech because we want to know about it. And of course, the SEC were like, whoa, we didn't want you guys to go that far. So what they've basically done is they completely switched their stance up very late in the lawsuit. This was only a couple weeks ago, stating that, hey, that wasn't actually his personal opinion. Bear in mind, he's already signed the affidavit and he's said it was in depositions, etc. They said it was the opinion of the Division of Corporation Finance. And how they're saying it was the opinion of him as the director of the Division of Corporation Finance, which, as you'd expect, guys, with DPP protecting things within the SEC, if that was the opinion of just one sector within the SEC, then it's protected by DPP. Therefore, they're saying they do not need to hand over these documents because it is protected. Now, of course, this is where Ripple are popping in, citing this document, basically saying, hey, they're just looking for a do-over. They know they messed up. They're digging themselves a hole. You can't fall for this. And honestly, guys, they go in this document. Arguments like the motion should be denied because the SEC identifies no controlling law or facts that the court overlooked, basically stating there was no chance that the court overlooked anything because, literally, as we've said, Bill Hinman did an affidavit. The SEC have said since the start that it was his personal opinion. Other arguments like the SEC's reversal of position does not justify reconsideration. Obviously, that being in regards to just because they're switching their stance does not mean this needs to be reconsidered because they've already stated before the fact of the matter when it came to this speech. I'm going to be real with you guys. They didn't hold back in this. I think that Ripple's lawyers have done an absolutely standout job in this, and I think this could be. And I've said this back at the start as well. I try and come at these from an unbiased opinion, although I am bullish on XRP, guys. Look, at the end of the day, I stand by the fact that they've done something wrong. They'll get punished for it, and I'm open to that. And as an XRP holder, I'm open to that fact. which is the best way to look at this from an unbiased position. However, they've absolutely smashed this, and I really do believe that this could be somewhat the beginning of the end for the SEC in regards to them switching their stance the way they have in regards to Bill Hinman's speech. They did not do themselves any favors at all. And of course, the third argument being communications about Mr. Hinman's speech are not essential links in policymaking process. Obviously, that being to do with, if it was to do with policymaking process, that's to do with the SEC, which therefore means it would be protected by DPP. I hope you said that. Anyway, moving on to the next one, and this links back to the first filing that I did speak about, and that was Brad Garlinghouse filed his response to the SEC's opposition to Mr. Garlinghouse's motion seeking the disclosure of notes of the November 9th, 2018 meeting between former SEC Commissioner Roisman and Mr. Garlinghouse and the Estabrook notes. And basically in this one, it's a pretty standout argument. Garlinghouse is basically saying that there's no way one of the main arguments, as we've said, is that Estabrook did not take all the notes from this meeting, and therefore, Garlinghouse was the only one in there, so he can just give his opinion on what happened in that meeting. Garlinghouse comes back in this basically saying, well, no, because no one else on my side was in that meeting. It was Estabrook, Roisman, and Garlinghouse. So therefore, no one is there to back up what I'm saying, which is why I need those notes, because clearly what Roisman said in there will be very important and not look good for the SEC. Now, although the SEC are not denying that Roisman said that, which kind of hints to the fact that they do not really want to be handing over these notes, as they probably know there's something in there that is going to not do them any favors. Furthermore, as we said, that the SEC did cite a lot of case law in there as to, we didn't make Ripple hand this stuff over, but why should you make us hand this over? And you didn't make us do this in the past, so why are you making us do it now? Garlinghouse attacks all those points, outlining the reasons why they did that, and obviously why that doesn't really stand for what's happening right now. Honestly, once again, guys, really, really good from Brad. I think from when I read the first document, I kind of thought, okay, SEC kind of put themselves in a good position here. But seeing this response from Brad Garlinghouse himself, I'd probably put this at there's more chance these notes could get handed over, but there's also a chance, like we've always said, guys, the SEC know what they're doing. They could very well not get handed over, but I'm more biased towards them being handed over, just so you know. So put it this way, if it was a handed over yes, or handed over like they're not getting handed over, I'm on this side. They will get handed over, in my opinion. We'll see how it plays out. I could be wrong, and I'm open to it. Anyway, guys, that wraps up all the documents and everything you need to know in regards to that. As you can see, I mean, there is a lot going on. So I've got an itch, by the way. There is a lot going on in this lawsuit. But I think in regards to things moving forward, responses to the likes of the reconsideration of DPP, and in regards to seeing if these notes get handed over, there's some exciting stuff. And I think all of that is very much more stressful for the SEC than it is for Ripple, because if each of things go Ripple's way, then it's going to be very positive for them. And if they don't go Ripple's way, then, they move on to another one of their extremely strong arguments. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this plays out. Now, one thing I did want to outline and get into with you guys is something Jeremy Hogan outlined, and this happens at the end of each phase. Now, as we outlined at the start on the 28th, it was the end date of the, how am I forgetting the name of this thing? It was the end date of the expert discovery. Now, with it being the end date of that phase, just like at the end of fact discovery, what it means is both parties have to sit down for a 1-hour discussion on whether they discuss, and they have to discuss settlement. Now, what I wanted to outline is, because I know this would probably get chucked around, a lot of XRP maxis are going to be talking to you guys about, oh my God, it's a settlement. They're going to settle on this date. Now, look, of course, the chances that they could do that. However, they've had these meetings before, just like this is proof of. It says right here, all counsel must meet face-to-face or via video conference for at least 1 hour to discuss settlement within 14 days following the close of fact discovery, just like they'll do it for the close of expert discovery, which is what we've just finished now. So basically, simple terms, within 14 days of the 28th, this meeting will be occurring. Whether a settlement comes from it or not, there is no guarantee that it will. However, just understand that there is a chance. But don't look too much into it, guys. You can see there's a lot going on with this lawsuit. I think in regards to what could happen, like, you guys are going to want me to speculate, so I'm going to entertain you guys. A lot of things are favoring Ripple right now. There's a lot of pressure on the SEC. Bearing in mind Judge Netburn as well, she's still reviewing a lot of documents, which is when she comes out with the what she deems of those documents, it's going to be very interesting as well. So you might have an opinion in regards to this meeting as well. Remember, it's in regards to all counsel. So yeah, I'm interested to watch it play out. Do I think there'll be a settlement? I'll be honest, I'm biased against it simply for the fact I expect this lawsuit to drag out. In my mind, I have the idea of this lawsuit dragging out for an extremely long time. And that is because I almost see it as like the US stalling on regulating crypto. They really want to have a strong grasp, a strong understanding before they just come out, let Ripple off the hook and just regulate crypto as a whole. Remember, as a governing body, they want to be in the best position possible to regulate the market so they can benefit from it. Look, nothing against it, although it may not be the coolest thing in the world, but it is how it is and it's how it works. So in regards to that, just be open to the fact, yes, they do have this meeting. It's no guarantee that there will be a settlement, but they're in a better position than ever. Anyway, guys, I'd like to thank you very much for watching this update. If you do have any questions, of course, chuck them in the comments below. I freaking love making these videos for you guys. I've been going hard on YouTube recently, so I hope you guys are enjoying the content. And if you want me to make any videos on anything in particular, please put that in the comments below, because as always, I enjoy making this content. And if I can make stuff that can help you guys out, then that's what I'm here for. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Have an amazing rest of your day. Peace out.